Portland looks like it's gearing up for further unrest. In other news, water is wet and the sky is also blue. Fannie Willis update on Big Fannie, who is taking over the prosecution, air quotes, of President Trump. Also, be careful what you're looking at on airplanes. You never know who's going to be snapping photos of you, especially if you're a sitting congressman. All that and more coming up on this episode of Turning Point tonight. My name is Joe Bob. Thanks so much for tuning in together. We are charting the course of America's cultural comeback. This is Turning Point tonight. Remember, as always, you can email the show anytime you want. tpt@tpusa.com. Your thoughts, comments, concerns, criticisms, all go there. tpt@tpusa.com. Also, go subscribe to our YouTube channel, which, again, if you're not there, you're going to be missing out. There's a close friend of the show who mentioned that he happened to be in the scenario that I have been warning so many people about, at a dinner party, and somebody is not subscribed to the Turning Point Tonight YouTube channel. Therefore, they don't know what's going on in the extra segment of the show that we do every single day called One Last Point. Don't let that person be you. Go subscribe to our Turning Point YouTube channel. Up first tonight, I want to talk about Charlotte's Web, which is, there's so many layers to this story that have been uncovered that I'm uncovering because I'm a snoop and like looking into things at a level that is way too far than the story actually warrants. But Charlotte's Web is the administration's crackdown on illegal immigration in Charlotte, North Carolina. Let me play you this clip from the evening news. I believe this is CBS, talking about what is going on in Charlotte. Play this cut 3.
Tonight, Charlotte, North Carolina is the latest city to see a surge in immigration enforcement. Officers today started detaining people. The city is made up of more than 900,000 people, including more than 150,000 who are foreign-born, according to officials. Local leaders object to the federal force, saying it instills fear and uncertainty.
Oh no, people in an area think it is going to instill fear enforcing the law. Hey, maybe if you're not breaking the law, you won't have anything to fear, but that again might be too standard of a practice for the folks that are really, really opposed to law enforcement enforcing the law. But did you hear the statistics there that I thought were really interesting? The reporter says 900,000 live in the metro area of Charlotte, and of those, 150,000 of them are foreign-born. Now, strategically, they don't make the distinction between legal and illegal immigration, but also it's almost 20%, almost 20% of a major metropolitan area, which if you live on the East Coast, all of your flights go through Charlotte. Like everybody's going to Charlotte all the time because Charlotte's the big airport hub that sends you out to wherever it is that you need to go. You're telling me 20% of the people in that city are foreigners? That doesn't entirely sit right with me. But again, they don't delineate between illegal and legal immigrants because they're trying to skew the facts and opinions of the American people. Now, here's where this gets kind of interesting and kind of fun. Well, before that, here's how the libs in the Charlotte area took to the news that federal law enforcement was going to be rounding up criminal illegals. They decided to fight back by handing out whistles. Play this cut 4.
They do not like that. She wants one. Oh, thank you. Yep, whistles. Oh, you're a reporter. Okay. Whistles. They hate them. Blow on that as loud as you can, dude. They hate it. Fucking meaning of my whistle. So.
Pardon me real quick.
Now you all saw the whistles that were carefully put into plastic baggies with notes attached to them, which makes us, well, we should all ask the question, who's funding that? Who's actually putting up the money to carefully place all of these whistles in these baggies with the messages? And then who's paying that lady in order to go hand them out? That should be answered. We should know who is in charge of putting all that in there. Even if, let's just say hypothetically, it is a small donor to something, all of that stuff is considered political, in which case it should be disclosed who's paying for what, especially if they're going to do stuff like this. I want to, before we play this clip, I want to pre-apologize for the damage that it may cause to your ears. Play this cut 5. It's only 10 seconds.
Get out!
Ladies and gentlemen, they did it. They, blowing their whistles, changed the policy and the trajectory of the United States of America. Congressmen and congresswomen were calling for a vote to change the laws around illegal immigration, specifically because of all the whistling. Congratulations, whistlers. You have done the impossible. Of course, that's not the case. That didn't actually happen, and it didn't change anyone's heart or mind on the matter. They just were really, really annoying, and thankfully, we got to bring you that clip to show you how annoying they actually are. But speaking of annoying, this is where I think it gets rather funny. Because the libs have to have the antithesis to Donald Trump in everything that they do, the Charlotte's Web operation happening in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is rounding up criminal illegals and hopefully getting them out of the country, well, that name just struck fear into the hearts of libs, to which the Daily Beast wrote this. Again, because we need to grasp at straws here to try and figure out anything that we could be mad about, the Daily Beast wrote, "The granddaughter of Charlotte Webb's author, E.B. White, blasted the Trump administration for naming a brutal immigration crackdown after the children's classic." Yes, the granddaughter of the author of the book that the administration named the operation after is clapping back. Now, obviously, President Trump pulled back all of the federal immigration forces. They're no longer in Charlotte. Oh, no, wait, no, they didn't. That doesn't actually mean anything or do anything. I told you it's going to get even funnier. The Daily Beast goes on to say White, who has edited several collections of her late grandfather's essays on democracy and freedom, said he believed in the rule of law and due process. In other words, he's kind of a conservative, at least it sounds like. Arguing that borrowing his work to sell a mass roundup betrayed that legacy. In what way, shape, or form does it betray the legacy of a guy who, by your own admission, believed in the rule of law and due process? That's kind of the whole thing here. But it gets even better than that, because I don't know, because I want to do a good job, but mostly because I'm bored, went and looked up, what did E.B. White actually say about freedom specifically? Well, this was an article that he wrote in Harper Magazine in the September of 1940. Now, she's talking in response to the Nazis in Germany at the time, and making the point about American freedom. He says, here in America, where our society is based on the belief in the individual, not contempt for him, the free principle of life has a chance of living and surviving. I believe that it must and will survive. To understand freedom is an accomplishment which all men acquire who set their minds in that direction. And to love freedom is a tendency which many Americans are bored with. In other words, his granddaughter clapped back, and also apparently inaccurately. Apparently she clapped back on something that the guy, by his own words, didn't seem to believe in. The whole thing is ridiculous on the face of it, and I'm hoping that that's what this is conveying to you. But at the end of the day, the Trump administration is getting as many illegals out of Charlotte, North Carolina as they possibly can. Best of luck, federal agents, in your attempt to rid the country of, again, criminal illegals. Coming up next here on Turning Point tonight, Portland looks to be possibly bracing for impact. And again, the Pope wears a funny hat, water is wet, the sky is blue, all other obvious things that happen when you say that Portland is going through it. Also, a Fannie Willis update, checking in on the memory of her lover who is not her lover, who went on weekend vacations but also didn't, and all of those things. We got fantastic guests coming up. tpt@tpusa.com is the email address. Also, go subscribe to our YouTube channel, Turning Point Tonight on YouTube, also Facebook and Instagram and X and all the other social media platforms. You're not going to want to miss any of the exclusive online content there. We will be right back after the break. Don't go away. Welcome back to Turning Point Tonight, where together we are charting the course of America's cultural comeback through the mockery of terrible lib ideas, which generally point us in the direction of Portland. But first, I got to remind you, tpt@tpusa.com is the email if you'd like to send us your thoughts, comments, concerns, even criticisms. I know we allow people to send emails that are wrong by nature, but go ahead and send them anyway. tpt@tpusa.com. Also, go subscribe to our YouTube channel, Turning Point Tonight on YouTube, which is growing by leaps and bounds. And you don't want to be the person that doesn't subscribe. It'll leave you out of the loop in dinner conversation when people do subscribe and you're not one of them. So don't do that to yourself. Don't subject yourself to that sort of humiliation. Go to Turning Point Tonight's YouTube channel and subscribe there. I mentioned Portland, generally speaking, where sanity goes to die, except for a few fine folks in the greater Oregon area. Kristin Sokoloff is a conservative commentator who joins us now specifically. Well, first of all, Kristin, how are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me back.
So, Kristin, there is a ballot measure going on in the Portland area that I can't help but think is freaking hilarious because it might tip its cap towards sanity. The Portland area has a ballot measure that would fund additional hundreds of officers in the Portland Police Bureau, but it would do so by pulling money away from the climate justice programs that voters approved in 2018. First of all, your thoughts on this, and then what do you think is actually going to happen here?
It's going to be very interesting. So Portland voters are about to face the choice. Do you want public safety or do you want climate justice? Now, this proposed measure would hire 400 desperately needed officers. And trust me, my husband is a Portland police officer. We need them desperately. It's been a long running thing that, God forbid, one of the officers were killed in the line of duty. They say, tell the wives we all know to sue the city for having a shortage this dire. This money, like you said, would come from the Portland Clean Energy Fund. And that fund was projected to raise 40 to 60 million a year. And instead, it's bringing in a staggering 200 million annually. It's basically turned into a political slush fund. And meanwhile, Portland ranks 48 out of 50 in police staffing, which explains why crime is through the roof, and they don't even have enough officers to get to all the 911 calls, let alone there is zero proactive policing happening.
I hate to poke fun at this, but you're absolutely right. This ends up being just a slush fund of, hey, the mayor's niece's cousin's nephew's former college roommate is starting an EV bus company. Let's go ahead and kick $1 million their direction and see what happens. But, okay, the argument that is probably going to be made on the lib side of the aisle is, what good is it if law enforcement can keep me safe if the climate is also going to be the one that eventually terminates my existence because of climate change? What is your response to something like that, which I'm assuming is inevitable?
Absolutely. So they're foreshadowing out towards 2050 when a lot of Portlanders are just trying to get past Thursday, right? So like that's the argument right now, is that it's a dire need today, not 25 years from now. That's
always the case. Yeah, the future is going to be disastrous if we don't act now. So just really quickly, what is your prediction here? Do you think the people of Portland have had enough of the rioting in the streets, or do you think they really, really want to further the ban on plastic straws?
I think we have a really good shot at this. Right now, if you look up who is a proponent for this bill, there are actual Democrats. So that was really refreshing to see. Yeah, so common sense is starting to peek its head. I'm currently working with a group on No Tax Oregon. Our governor, Tina Kotek, someone to call her, Kotex. We call her that because of like tampons and stuff. But I forget what her real last name is actually sometimes. But she just proposed crazy taxes that are going to increase our gas tax alone an additional 50 cents a gallon. And so we're working really hard. And this is a nonpartisan deal that we're working on. We've almost gathered half the signatures that we need to get it on the ballot. So I think common sense may prevail in this.
Wow, that would be, honestly, I'm hoping for that. Like, I am all about redemption in places that seem to have gone off the lefty turnpike, and I would like to see Portland take, because not to say that there are not other things beautiful about Portland. Love the coffee. I can't enough say that I go and I find a blue hair working the barista stand. Like that's probably great coffee.
Exactly.
Speaking of Portland, Kristin, the National Guard, who was sent out to both Chicago and Portland, is going to go back home to their respective states. Now, they didn't actually end up doing much of anything, really. They were just kind of there as a deterrent. One, how much do you think that deterrent actually quelled some sort of street civil unrest on the streets of Portland? And two, do you think them going home is going to, I don't know, promote more protesting on the streets of Portland?
Oh, this is a tough one because so I live in Happy Valley, Oregon, which is just like 10 minutes outside of Portland. And
Right.
that's where 200 federalized California National Guard troops, 200 Texas, that's where they were sent. So they
Huh.
were just sitting here and they weren't actually able to go and do anything. And I just want to clear the air. A lot of people ask me, is it as bad as Trump said it was? The answer is no. So Trump said the whole city's on fire, yada, yada, right? Maybe in 2020. But if we really, this is where I want to I'm like, hey, sir, give me a call before you say this stuff. But because actually it was really a controlled 2 city blocks in front of the ICE building. So it's not at the level that it was made to be. It doesn't make it right by any means, but that is the truth behind the impact. So no, I don't see anything. Maybe they'll go out there and talk about how they won and they were able to get these judges to send them home and or render them inactive. But I don't really see much of a change.
I'm just curious, and I don't know that you were going to have like a hard set answer on this, but what is the difference between 2020 and now? Because like you said, it thankfully has been kind of cornered to a couple city blocks where all of the chaos is broken loose. That was not the case in 2020 when I think it saw 2 consecutive 100 nights in a row of riots in Portland. What, if you're just speaking anecdotally, do you think is the difference?
I would say that the Portland Police Bureau, they didn't know how to respond to it initially. My husband was one of those. He did 124 consecutive nights in 2020. A lot of the officers have PTSD from that, and it's very real because they were told to stand down. So they were hats and bats with Antifa on the streets because Antifa had been outfitted with professional police gear. And there were bricks everywhere. So it was a much larger response. It wasn't nipped in the bud. The only thing that stopped that 124 consecutive days was the fact that we had fires here. And so the smoke was making it to where you could barely breathe outside.
Wow.
Otherwise, it would have just kept going because city officials, and just so people know, the Portland police chief answers to the Portland police commissioner is the mayor, which is very rare. Yeah. So anytime the mayor is elected, that is the commissioner, the police commissioner, which is, again, rare, but we have that here in Portland. So yeah, it's, I would just say what we're seeing today is the energy is not there because the police bureau is more proactive to keep it contained.
I believe it was Mayor Weasel there, or sorry, Wheeler. I get confused with his name. That was probably more likely to let the city burn than hopefully the corrected direction. Again, Portland's not where we probably would want it to be, but it sounds like there's reason to be optimistic. So that's good.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And they turned the left will eat them their own, right? Because they even tried to burn down is it a condo or whatever he lived in, apartment complex? They tried to burn it down while he was in it. So, so it's like you can't make him happy, even though he was a Democrat and he was allowing them to just continue on every night. They still weren't happy, right? I don't know what they wanted him to march out there with them. So yeah, it's wild. But I do think we're headed in the right direction, but just not fast enough.
Hey, well, the right direction is the operative term there, and hopefully the speed will progress as we start to understand that sanity will hopefully win the day. Kristin, thank you so much for joining us. You're becoming our Portland bureau chief over there.
Hey, we're tough. We're tough. Us blue state conservatives have to stick together.
I appreciate you doing so as a blue state conservative myself. Thanks so much for joining. Really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you. TPT@tpusa.com is the email address if you'd like to send your thoughts, comments, concerns. What do you think? Is Portland kind of turning itself around? Like, I hate to give them any credit, but San Francisco is kind of doing the same thing. Now, I wish it didn't take poop in the streets and burning down of businesses, but it seems like it's possibly going the right direction. TPT@tpusa.com is the email if you'd like to weigh in on whether or not you're optimistic about Portland or not. Also, go subscribe to our YouTube channel, TP Turning Point Tonight on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Twitter, X, which are the same thing in my head. I still haven't gotten the social media listings down, but all of the social media platforms, go subscribe there to get exclusive content that you can't see anywhere else because we just don't have enough time to talk about it. So we'll be right back after the break. Don't go away. Welcome back to Turning Point. Tonight we're together. We are watching illicit material as other people are overlooking our charting the course of America's cultural comeback. Sorry, I got a Freudian slip there. I jumped ahead of myself. We're going to be talking about that in just a couple seconds. tpt@tpusa.com is the email if you'd like to send us your thoughts, comments, concerns, criticisms. tpt@tpusa.com. What do you think about this story? Let us know at the email. Also, go subscribe to our YouTube channel, Turning Point Tonight on YouTube, where there's exclusive content that can't be seen here in Real America's Voice because we have such a condensed period of time together. So go to our YouTube channel as well as our Rumble, Facebook, X account, Instagram, all of the social media platforms, and you will be able to keep up with everything Turning Point Tonight, as you very well should. This is the home of correct opinions. So go to Turning Point Tonight on social media and learn what those correct opinions are. Speaking of correct opinions, this is an opinion that is so correct that it shouldn't really even need to be exemplified, except for the fact that some people, for some reason, decide, well, I don't even know what's going through Brad Sherman's head here. Congressman Brad Sherman was on a flight the other day, over the weekend, and well, I'm going to read the Daily Wire and how they characterized it. Photos posted online show Congressman Brad Sherman of California looking at what appears to be pornographic images of women on his tablet during a recent flight. So, we're together. What did I say at the beginning? We're together. We are overlooking the shoulder of people looking at illicit material, something along those lines. Congressman Sherman apparently was actually doing that. Now, we do have, I want you to avert your eyes if you seem squeamish. We do have some of those photos up. Glenn, can we pull up that first graphic here? Yes. Here's a photo of Congressman Sherman looking at what is just terrible and disgusting imagery on his tablet. Obviously, we want to be courteous of our TV viewing audience and not show you specifically, but the next one can be a little bit more revealing. Glenn, can you pull up graphic 2? Again, a photo of him. Wow. This, folks, is disgusting, to say the least. And at the risk of your eyes bleeding out and oozing uncontrollably, I want to show you this last one. This picture, graphic 3, Glenn, just horrific. And I don't want to make light of it, but at the same time, this was the safer route to take. This is the road that needed to be traveled here of censoring the entire image, because yeah, what was going on his tablet screen was pretty not okay. Now look, this should be said, this shouldn't need to be said, but if you're on a plane or even in a public place, either one, have a screen protector, or two, make sure that nobody can see your screen. But I guess the third one, and the most obvious one, is, hey, don't look at that stuff on the internet when you're in public. Don't look at it in private either, but don't have some situational awareness. The Daily Wire continues, Sherman, who is a fiercely anti-Trump, has denied that he was looking at any pornographic material while admitting to looking at suggestive photos. And then get this, he blamed the X algorithm. I was just scrolling through my phone and all of a sudden, who knows? The algorithm decided to show me this, which, if you think about it for more than, 10 seconds, you start to go, well, wait, what does the algorithm generally do? Well, generally speaking, the algorithm shows you something that is akin to or like some of the stuff that you've already been looking at or already been watching. So to blame the algorithm for showing you pornographic material would allude to the fact that you generally look at that sort of thing because that's what the algorithm feeds you. I can guarantee you can open up my X account and scroll through all the things that pop up in my For You page powered by the X algorithm, which of course is Elon Musk, specifically targeting what I specifically want. I'm just kidding. It's an actual algorithm. And honestly, what you would find is a bunch of lib commentators. I've noticed that I engage on X specifically, with a bunch of libs constantly posting their ridiculous nonsense. So unfortunately, every time I open up X, the algorithm shows me more of that, just more libs saying more ridiculous nonsense. And it's helpful for this job, but also it's very, very infuriating to see the types of things that people say. Here's how Sherman responded. He was asked by reporter John Bresnahan in the aftermath of the scandal. He said, "If I see a picture of a woman, I might look at it longer than a sunset." Yeah. He also said that what he was doing was inappropriate, so at least he acknowledged that. He does, though, deny repeatedly that he was looking at any sort of pornographic material or that he had a problem with it at all. The interviewer says Sherman said these photos came up on his Twitter feed under the For You heading. He also, not that this makes it any better, he then goes on and says, this is Twitter. First of all, it's called X, Mr. Sherman, especially from the party that's willing to call things that they are not and rebrand, for lack of a better term, other people's genders. At least, the very least you could do is keep up with the actual terminology that we all use. These pictures came up in my For You. I must have looked at more than 1,000 posts. You know, if we actually didn't censor all of the posts, it actually is kind of interesting that it seemed to be like a never-ending string of these things. It just kept going and going and going. So I'm not entirely sure that is a good excuse either. There, Brad. The only reason that, not the only reason, because we're talking about Congressman Sherman, it brought up to mind a clip of President Trump when he was in the Palisades after those horrific fires, when Sherman was sitting around the table with him, and Trump laid this humdinger on him. Glenn, do you have that shot ready? Go ahead and play that.
Water. Little things like water. You know, the party of common sense. See, we're the party of common sense. You're not, in all fairness.
Yes, sir.
We like water to put out fires. It's really quite efficient.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President.
What do you say when the president just sarcastically lambasts your dumb ideas? You know, I think at the bottom line here, what we should all come away with is be aware of your surroundings situationally. One, don't do that to begin with, but two, on a plane, in public view of everybody, maybe don't have your phone out looking at explicit material. You never know. Kids could be sitting behind you and watching that, Congressman. So thank you very much. Please don't let it happen again. Speaking of things that people won't let happen, we all remember the random Georgia case brought on by Big Fannie Willis, which is one of, I got that. Charlie started calling her Big Fanny, and I just thought it was so funny that I don't know. That was one of the funnier jokes that I think I remember him making. Just saying Big Fanny he didn't even like explain it. Just Big Fannie Willis, and then moved on. But an interesting new development is coming out of there. This is from Breitbart. Last December, the Georgia Court of Appeals removed Big Fanny. They say Willis, I say Big Fanny. From the case after it was discovered that she had improperly brought her lover, Nathan Wade, onto the case as a special prosecutor. In its ruling, the appellate court overturned the lower court's decision that allowed Willis to continue prosecuting if Wade was no longer on it. Then in September of this year, hopefully you're still tracking with this, the Georgia Supreme Court declined to hear an appeal to get her back on the case. So in other words, there's now a special prosecutor who effectively has appointed himself to be in charge of the case, prosecuting, I think that's the correct legal term, President Trump in Georgia, which again, this is one of those Manhattan DA nonsense cases that'll never actually go anywhere, but Big Fanny's really, really trying to raise money, considering she's probably going to be out of the job next election cycle. But the bottom line here is that the special counsel that is overseeing this has effectively appointed himself because he's decided, well, I know the case better than anybody else, and Big Fanny obviously can't do it. And, well, the only reason, not the only reason, but one of the main reasons I bring you this story is so that I could play this, which, when the President of the United States runs cover for your jokes, that is when you have an effective communicator in the White House. This is a clip that I don't think I would play you if it weren't for the fact that the President of the United States put it out himself. Watch this and enjoy. This is Big Fanny's lover when asked, did you ever spend a weekend alone with her? And again, I wouldn't throw, my judgment would say, we better not. But because the President of the United States decided to post it, we will show it to you here and now. Watch this.
Did you go to a cabin with Miss Willis ever?
Ever?
Ever.
I've been really trying, baby, trying to hold back this feeling for so long. And this you feel like I feel, baby.
No.
You've never gone to a cabin with this?
No.
So that was played in real time. It took him a whole 20 seconds to answer that question, to which the president then tweeted something where someone made hilarious edits to that. Actually, I'm not entirely sure that actually might, there's some new technology that might have been mind reading what he was actually thinking in the court. I'm not exactly sure on that. It's possible. And by the way, you folks at home can't see this, but producer Glenn is literally laughing his butt off as that video is playing. And I'm trying to keep a straight face because we are a serious news outlet that wants to bring you the facts. Nathan Wade was clearly shagging his boss, allegedly. Man, we are, sometimes we get off the rails here, and sometimes it's fun, and sometimes we gotta get back on the rails. We gotta get back on track here, because again, we're fighting for we're charting the course of America's cultural comeback. Coming up next, we've got some fun stuff. Just trust me, it's some fun stuff. tbt@tpusa.com is the email. Also, go subscribe to our YouTube channel, Turning Point Tonight, on YouTube, on Rumble, on Facebook, on X, on Instagram, all of these social media platforms. Go subscribe there. We do an extra segment of the show called One Last Point that you can only see on social media. So go find that today. Don't be the odd one out that doesn't subscribe to the Turning Point YouTube channel. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to your friends. You want to be in the loop. You want to know what's going on, and you want to hear producer Glenn and his very, very spicy takes on the happenings of the day. We will be right back after the break. Don't go away. Welcome back to Turning Point Tonight, where together we are charting the course of America's cultural comeback. tbt@tpusa.com is the email address if you'd like to send us along your thoughts, comments, concerns, even criticisms. We love those at Turning Point Tonight. Email tpt@tpusa.com. Also, go subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Turning Point Tonight YouTube channel, which is growing by leaps and bounds, and you don't want to be left behind. Also, go to Rumble, Facebook, Instagram, all of the social media platforms. You will find all of the content, including the social media exclusive content not seen anywhere else except for our social media platforms, Turning Point Tonight on YouTube, as well as everywhere else. You know, this is a video that has been making the rounds, interestingly enough, recently, and it is interesting. I'm not entirely sure if the two things are correlated, because the particular individual who is the focus of these older videos is now in the limelight when it comes to creating new content for people, but more specifically, I think families to view, which is kind of concerning. This video clip that I'm about to show you has been circulating around the internet, and I thought it was interesting, but it wasn't recent. It actually was from 8 years ago, which for some reason nobody on the internet tends to like point out when these sort of things happen, which I actually think is a problem. I think if you're going to post a video, give it some context. When did this happen? What was it actually doing? But in this particular case, it makes sense considering, again, new pilots being ordered by ABC. This first video is the setup. This is Bill Nye, you know, the science guy. I don't even know what this is. He's like hosting something and then presents. This is peak woke. That's the tweet that I saw. This is peak woke at its top highest heights. And that's all I can say to explain that. Watch this cut one, and then we'll follow up with what the performance actually was. Check this out. Okay, so Bill Nye saves the world, and then the first thing said in the performance is this one goes out to all of my bipeds, which I don't even know what that means, who identify as ladies. Okay, I don't know. Glenn is doing a motion like this, like people, pedestrians, like people who have two legs, bi-legged people. Okay. Whatever. So that's the big lead up. Now, I will concede the fact that this lady that he's introducing, Rachel Bloom is her name, is a comedian, I guess. But in the same vein of comedy that libs generally tend to tact to nowadays, all it really is a bunch of sputtering about gender weirdness that I will save you the entire clip. We're not going to play the whole thing, but this is what that performance was, and try not to get too distracted by DJ Bill Nye, the science guy, who also makes an appearance at the front end of the video, again, for some reason. I'm not entirely sure what's even going on here. I'll play this cut too. I apologize for showing you that. I don't really even know what that was. A bunch of people gyrating suggestively in underwear in order to convey some message of boxes where people fornicate. I don't know what that was. Okay. All I know is that I would hope to agree with you, the audience, and it's disturbing in some way, shape, or form. And hopefully the person that portrayed this weird dance performance thing is banished from all media and all performance art for the foreseeable future. Unfortunately, that is not the case, which is why I decided to show you this. Interestingly enough, ABC has ordered a pilot for a half-an-hour show called Do You Want Kids, starring this lady, Rachel Bloom. It is a single-camera comedy from 20th century about a married couple. The show delves into their lives, how their lives are dramatically altered by sliding door style explanation, basically the whole marriage and kids thing. It's a sneak peek into the marriage and kids and what marriage is like with kids, and do you want kids? That's actually the title of the show, called Do You Want Kids? It is written by Bloom and her husband, who I guess is also a writer, and has been ordered for a pilot for ABC. Now, that doesn't mean that the pilot is going to get a season ordered, but at the same time, it should kind of give some insight into the same channel that continues to platform people like Jimmy Kimmel have apparently not learned a lesson. ABC also owned by Disney, and we can all ascertain where the problems might come from that relationship as well. But the bottom line here is this. This very, very weird performance thing on a show hosted by Bill Nye, scientist, and also DJ, and also Fauci fanboy. People that are doing all that stuff for now almost a decade are getting shots in mainstream outlets continually. I have no idea what the show is going to look like. I have no idea if it's going to be a success and prompt ABC to order an entire season. But it should be said that the types of folks that do whatever it was that we watched previously, even if you're a comedian, are still getting mainstream exposure, the likes of which conservatives, I can guarantee you, are not getting in any way, shape, or form, specifically and especially on ABC. Now, there's no good way to transition into this, because I do think this is actually really interesting and important and not entirely funny really at all. Not that the last thing was funny either. But really interesting group of articles have come across your mainstream media outlets. I believe I saw this on CBS, but also ABC was talking about it. Also, USA Today was talking about it. Foreigners are making up less and less of the population in our government-run schools. Now, you and I look at that and go, cool. Sounds good. That sounds like a great idea. Except for the people reporting on this are doing it in their scary tones, which I'll probably read this in the scary tones. From Miami to San Diego, schools around the U.S. are seeing big drops in enrollments of students from immigrant families. And again, as we like to point out, consistently and for some reason constantly on this show, nobody differentiates between illegals and legal immigrants. They just say immigrant families. But apparently there are big drops in enrollments of people who I'm going to assume that most of these are illegals, right? In some cases, parents have been deported or voluntarily returned to their home countries, driven out by President Trump's sweeping immigration crackdown. again, big thumbs up. If you're just listening on the podcast apps, sounds good. Miami-Dade County Public Schools, about 2,500 schools or students have entered the district from another county so far this year. Okay, what do those numbers mean in context? It's down from about 14,000 students last year and more than 20,000 the year before that. It goes on to talk about all the different school districts in very, very deep blue areas. I know Miami, I think, has a conservative mayor, but overall, very, very blue area. Specifically and especially regarding the public schools. Okay, so what does all that mean? What is all that saying? Well, one, people are self-deporting. The media is reporting this is a very bad thing. Oh no, school attendance rates are declining. Student enrollment for immigrant families, but probably illegals, is going down as if this is a bad thing. It's actually the opposite. This is actually great news. But also something that I think we should all keep an eye on is something that happened in California when attendance started dropping drastically during COVID. Now, if you're not familiar with how schools get their money and their funding, a lot of it has to do with attendance. Their average daily attendance rates are where they get their actual funding. If they have great attendance, they'll probably get the adequate funding needed. It can vary, especially in California, from like $9,000, $12,000 per student per year. Now, if that student doesn't show up, then the school doesn't get that money. But what happened during COVID is California passed a bunch of provisions that said, hey, we know that the teachers' unions have our backs. I'm talking about libs here. They have our backs in every single election. We really, really love the teachers' unions. And if students stop showing up to school and conservative parents keep their kids home and homeschool them or send them to private schools, that means the attendance rates for those schools are going to drop. And if the attendance rates for those schools drop, well, their funding goes away. And if their funding goes away, oh no, union teachers might lose their jobs. So in California, what they did is they instituted one-time big bulk payments to schools to make sure that they didn't lose the resources, even though they lost the students. And while attendance rates are still tied in California to the funding that the school gets, they also look at a bunch of different variables in order to be able to give the schools the money that are needed to pay for the teachers who vote libs back into office. All there is to say about this is, one, the mainstream media is making a big oh no about the fact that illegal immigrants are not going to school anymore. But what they're really concerned about is the teachers' unions not being employed at the rate that they were when the numbers were higher. It's the ultimate and broad point here. This is actually, I think, way more important than is probably getting play in the media attention. The bottom line is, as government school rates drop, especially if people are self-deporting, which again, awesome news, let's also make sure that the funding going towards government schools, and by that I generally mean the teachers' unions who bully legislatures into the very, very woke ideology that they've pushed on lots of state and local legislators, make sure their funding goes down proportionately to the students and the enrollment that is going down. I know it might be a lot to wrap your head around, but trust me, it is worth paying attention to, especially at the local level, especially in your local school district. It's a little bit serious. We got some funny stuff to close out the day. TBT at tpusa.com. Also go subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be right back after the break. Don't go away. Welcome back to Turning Point Tonight. Together we are charting the course of America's cultural comeback. TBT at tpusa.com is the email if you'd like to send us your thoughts, comments, concerns, even criticism. Send them to tbt at tpusa.com. We've been good. We've relatively okay. Not good necessarily, relatively okay at responding to some of those. So appreciate those thoughts, comments, concerns, tbt at tpusa.com. Also go subscribe to our YouTube channel, Turning Point Tonight on YouTube, which is growing by just astronomical numbers, which is fantastic. It's so much fun to see you all outside of the TV format into the digital space because, well, it's another avenue which we can interact. So TPT, Turning Point Tonight on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, Instagram, X, all of them, all of the social media platforms. Sometimes it's odd setting these up. I don't entirely know what I need to say here. I think the entire video speaks for itself in a hilarious and also a little bit sad, not because of what has happened to this individual, but because of the mindset that this individual has, which is going to elicit more things like this happening to them. But it also is satisfying. And I like that. And I want you to feel satisfied as well in knowing that you're right. I guess that's the. Watch this, and we will discuss someone. Just watch.
I only pay $50 in rent. Does that make you angry? Does that make you shiver in your boots? Does that make you want to punch me in my face? I pay $50 for a 2-bedroom for my family of 6. With the help of your tax dollars. Thank you very much. Love you guys. So because of that video I made of my family of 7 living in a 2-bedroom apartment and me only paying $50, somebody on here was so miserable to go report me that now they gave me an eviction notice for 30 days. So now I need a lawyer. Thanks to y'all taxpayers that are so mad that you're paying my $50 in rent for my 2-bedroom apartment for a family of 7. I don't know how y'all even found out where I live. It's a 10-story apartment building. Y'all found out where I live. Y'all contacted the housing people. I don't know what you said to them, but now me and my family's getting evicted and we're gonna be on the streets. So thanks a lot.
I have no idea if these things are true. I will just go on a limb and say that is too delicious. I don't know if that's AI. I think it's real. I did as much homework as I possibly could on trying to find out whether or not that's like a real thing, but I don't know. And I also wouldn't put it past somebody who thinks like that to post a video like that. First things first, you can't be bragging about that sort of stuff to taxpayers, because guess what? The people that pay taxes are the type of people that make enough money to pay taxes. And if you make enough money and are responsible with your resources and do pay taxes going towards that sort of thing, chances are you're not going to be super thrilled with it being wasted on somebody who is not appreciative of it, and more specifically, probably don't need it. Second, I'd like to congratulate that woman on apparently giving birth between the first and second video. I don't know if you noticed. She started off with 6 people in a 2-bedroom apartment and somehow ended with 7. So either she was lying in the first one, lying in the second one, or lying in both, or welcomed a small bundle of joy into the world. In which case I would say congratulations, and also don't try and flex the amount of money that you're stealing from the taxpayers on the internet. Guess what? It'll come back to bite you in the butt. In the butt. Nip it in the bud, bite you in the butt. I always get those two things mixed up. I don't entirely know why. That's just tongue twisted a little bit. Let's see. tbt@tpusa.com is the email address. Send us your thoughts, comments, concerns, criticisms. We love reading those. Love gauging the community and where you guys are at on various topics and issues. Also, go subscribe to our YouTube channel. We love to see you there. Lastly, and I'll mention this as we wrap up here, I am on the road with Megyn Kelly. This is the last leg. That's all I can say. It's the last leg of the Megyn Kelly tour. We are in Bakersfield on Thursday. Honda Center in Anaheim, California, which I grew up going to sporting events at the Honda Center. We called it the Pond back in the day, that's a surreal moment for me. And then Arizona, or the Glendale area in Arizona, on Saturday. So if you happen to be in any of those areas, you would like to come see the Megyn Kelly show, the Megyn Kelly live tour event, we'd love to see you there, love to have you there. And if you do see me wandering around any of those big, massive venues, make sure you come and say hi. Also, producer Glenn will be with me in, I believe, Bakersfield and Anaheim. You can see him in person. Unless you also subscribe to our Turning Point YouTube channel, you know what he looks like, so there's an incentive to do that. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. God bless America. I didn't think they took that type of payment here, so you don't need to tell me that you're not taking it, which makes me think you did take it at some point, which freaking angers me. It's one last point. I was driving, well, I guess we were in a drive-through at The Taco, which is the American translation of Del Taco, a fine American eating establishment. Predominant on the West Coast. I don't think, I think like Pacific Northwest, the equivalent is like Taco Time. the East Coast, I'm not sure if the East Coast has Del Taco. It was one of those, it's like the green burrito I think they have on the East Coast. No, I don't even know if they have that there either. One of your Taco Bell-ish type places, if you're from part of the country that doesn't have Del Taco. We call it the Taco because we speak English in this household. We were in line at Del Taco because they have great iced coffee for some reason. And I promise you Del Taco did not pay us to say that, but they do. And so on a weekend, sometimes we like to treat ourselves and have an afternoon iced coffee at Del Taco. Man, there's so many different tangents I could go off on here. It used to be very, very cheap. The iced coffees at Del Taco used to be $1. Now they're $2.50, which is like 150% price increase. God, thanks, Obama. Anyways, we're at the drive-thru, getting ready to order our iced coffee at Del Taco. And there's a sign on the little thing that says, no longer accepting EBT. I think that's all of the things going on with the government shutdown. They said, we're no longer accepting EBT. To which I said to my wife, they normally accept EBT here? Like normally accept food stamps at, again, fine dining establishment of Del Taco, but you can use my money to purchase food there? And I don't want to be disparaging of, again, what I deem to be a culinary experience, the taco. I don't think you should be able to eat there if you can't afford food. It's not cheap anymore, which, again, that's not the only variable, but if it were cheap, I guess I can see that. But at the same time, you know, the majority of the food at this particular place, but all fast food just in general, not exactly the most health conscious food. I'm not against people eating, you know, whatever it is that they want to eat, but if you're using my money, I feel like I get a say in that, and my say in this particular circumstance is no. Which, and maybe this shows my privilege, that I had no idea you could use food stamps to buy food at fast food places. That seems crazy to me on its face, but I don't know. I guess I'd never really know. We don't frequent fast food places. Like we'll go to Chick-fil-A sometimes, you know, because we support the Lord, not because we like their food, which of course is a joke. They also have delicious chicken sandwiches. But I've been noticing, you know, the last couple days driving around, noticing places that do say we accept EBT, and I look around and go, why? I didn't know that. And maybe this is me just being completely ignorant or not like frequenting fast food places. I did not know that you could use my tax dollars to raise your cholesterol or, sorry, eat fast food. When I am king, I will decree that all government food assistance can only go towards like fresh food at the grocery store. Even if that's like a little bit more expensive, what I think it comes down to is that ultimately somebody who is using my freaking money to get burgers and burritos exclusively, because let's just face it, that's the type of food that some of those folks would get frequently, entirely, and exclusively. Well, guess what? That's also going to jack up spending my money on healthcare. All that is the front end of me spending even more money to make sure that you were fed in one instance, and also your whatever heart problems that come later on in life, assuming the fact that if you need food stamps, you probably also need government assisted healthcare as well. I don't even necessarily know that I'm taking shots at anybody here. I think I'm just saying that it is crazy to me that you're able to do that. And I was completely unaware, except for the fact that we wanted iced coffee. We like the taco, or Del Taco, if you're speaking again in Spanish, and saw the sign that said no longer accepting EBT, which made me think, wow, they must generally accept EBT, which is a problem on so many different levels. But again, maybe, I don't know, maybe Glenn will weigh in on whether or not this is my privilege talking. Glenn, how privileged am I to not know that fast food places accept food stamps?
I don't know if it's a privilege thing, and I do feel privileged to listen to you, so maybe it's privilege talking. But
Producer Glenn does not even want to hit the host when it's you could have just said yes.
I learned about this actually, and maybe this will make you feel better. A few days ago, it was last week, we did have a segment where we were talking about EBT, and I was pulling B-roll for it. And in the process of, looking at images that I wanted to include, I learned a little bit about EBT. There are 9 states, and I just looked it up again, that allow some form of SNAP EBT to be used in restaurants. Are you ready for this list?
Well, hold on. Actually,
can you guess?
Let me list off 9 states, and you tell me if I'm right on those. California, New York, Washington. Let's see. Oregon.
Not Washington.
Not Washington.
No, but you were right on the other 2, and not Oregon.
Not Oregon either.
Some of these are not. You would not guess.
It's going to be some red state that I'm going to be mad at. Is it Texas? Is Texas on this list?
It's not Texas.
Okay. Oklahoma.
No, not Oklahoma.
Okay. Well, I at the risk of just listing all 50 states.
Arizona, California, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, wow, that's a fail. You know what I'm talking about. Michigan, New York, Rhode Island, and Virginia have some form of a program that allows EBT SNAP at restaurants. Well, and I know because the McDonald's around the corner from my house has a huge banner advertising it.
See, the thing is, restaurants, it's the classification of restaurants where it gets kind of tricky, because I think I would have a problem at really I think you should cook at home. I just think people should cook at home regardless. But specifically, if you need my money, that means you're probably not working. If you're not working, you got all the time in the world. There's going to be so many hate comments in this, which is fine. Show me the flaw in my thinking where I don't think that my money should be used frivolously on things that are objectively going to cost me more money in the future. By way of
I don't see a flaw.
Expense.
I don't see a flaw in your thinking because it's a cycle. The government pays for their food. The government, meaning taxpayers, meaning all of us, pay for their food. They elect to consume junk food. And Del Taco, I haven't had Del Taco in probably a year, maybe 2. And I've not missed out on anything in life.
Glenn,
other than maybe like time on the toilet.
I was going to say, congratulations on a year free of diarrhea.
Can you get toilet paper with EBT? Is that a thing?
Wow.
I'm going to get us downvoted here. No, I was thinking they get sick from the food, they get unhealthy from the food, then they go to the hospital, and we pay for that too.
Yep.
And it's like, no, is anyone out there connecting these dots?
Well, it seems super obvious. And also too, I say this with the intention of the people that need to use food stamps, wanting them to better their lives to where they don't have to use food stamps. I think if you go and eat a salad, go get a bag salad from the grocery store. It's cheaper than whatever it is that you're going to get from McDonald's, because fast food places are no longer cheap, which that's a whole thing in and of itself. But it's going to be cheaper, and it's going to be better for you, and you're going to feel better, and everything is better if you just do that. And despite how against I am just general government subsidies and assistance really in any way, shape, or form, I think that should all come from the church. I can still I can be convinced otherwise if there are restrictions and parameters on where you can spend that money. One of the things that I saw on, speaking about my privilege and hoity-toityness, I'm into coffee. I like good coffee. I abhor bad coffee. And because of that, I was scrolling through the internet trying to find, some good beans. we've got some nice coffee. We've got all of the coffee makers. We got the pot, got the Keurig, got the espresso maker, got the what's the old school stove?
Do you have a pour over, or are you talking French press?
No. Well, we have a French press. We don't have a pour over. Oh man, it's gonna bug me. Somebody in the comments let me know. The thing that you put on the stove and there's water in the bottom and it shoots up. It's basically the old
percolator. Is it the percolator? Is it the right word?
I don't think so. It's It'll come to me as soon as we stop recording. All of that is to say, we got all the coffee things, got all things coffee related. And I'm scrolling through trying to, get some nicer beans. There's some kind of coffee, like espresso beans specifically. And I go on and they're EBT eligible. I'm like, dude, go to Costco and get a Folgers big tub of it. It'll be like $12. Whereas like these beans are like $22. And you can get them with EBT cards? Like, that's crazy to me. That's crazy. That's not to say that, well, no, that is to say. The argument that libs will make is like, well, you're saying that people don't deserve high-end coffee? Yes! Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I don't think I'm a mean person. I'm a bad person for saying that. Like, if you can't afford it on your own, why are you entitled for me to pay for it for you?
It is nonsensical. I think they should be able to buy coffee. They should get cheap coffee. They should have the basic stuff available. And if you want to contribute to society, have a job and earn money, then you get more freedom on what you can do with that money. And if you want to buy really expensive coffee, go ahead and do it then. Like there should be a trade-off here for what you do and what you get from it.
Maybe we'll expand tomorrow on my just gross aversion to single-payer healthcare, because I will become unbelievably active in all of the things that people consume or do not do. I will, like, if we are all on single payer, and maybe we'll elaborate on this tomorrow. Remind me that I want to talk about this tomorrow. But just the teaser is, if I'm required to subsidize other people's healthcare by way of a single payer healthcare system, I'm not talking about private insurance that we all buy into. If the government takes over healthcare, I will be on the front lines of forcing people to exercise and eliminating a whole lot of food types. You will not be allowed to eat that if it's up to me. When I am declared king, and for some reason in my kingship we've inherited this socialized Medicare program. But when that happens, I will decree that you cannot do these things and you must do these things, because now I've got skin in the game, and you will be no longer allowed to do X, Y, and Z. But we'll elaborate on that thought tomorrow. Glenn, any final thoughts? You don't have to say yes.
I have thoughts on that, but I will save them for tomorrow.
Thank you. This has been One Last Point. Appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. See you tomorrow, same time, same place. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. God bless America.